Hello my friends and welcome to Truth News. In today's episode we will be covering some topics that we already opened in previous episodes. In today's episode we will be talking about Dragon Age the Veilguard, a video game that was too woke even for the masses and it got rejected and now it's losing all of the money. We will talk about Donald Trump winning and what consequences that might have in world politics, the wars going on specifically between Ukraine and Russia, and if peace is something that can be achieved under the new administration when it gets installed in January. We will be looking at further progress in the war between Russia and Ukraine by looking at the interactive map. We will be looking at Spanish people getting angry at their leaders for how they handled the situation with the great floods they had in their country, which they haven't seen ever, at least in modern times. We'll be looking at a new conspiracy that adds another piece to the COVID puzzle and how the situation was handled, with a new addition of NATO being involved with the restrictions and violations of human rights in the NATO countries. We'll also be looking at Canada, who is usually not based, but now it seems that it's starting to ban TikTok, the Chinese spyware program, at least from its use by people who work in the government. We'll also be looking how in Netherlands, football supporters of Ajax got into a violent situation with the supporters of the Tel Aviv team from Israel. Though people say it wasn't a supporter, but it was actually Muslims who have nothing to do with football and just wanted to take their revenge on Israel for what they are doing in the Middle East. I'll also be recommending you some new video games that you might be interested in that are not controlled by the New World Order or have any propaganda in them. Although they still might have a slight propaganda, but you can't escape it nowadays. I have a little bit of cold today. It's getting very, very cold in my country, and winter is coming. So my voice is a little bit different maybe, and my face probably looks different. I don't know. You be the judge of that. But my nose is clogged, guys. It's Anyway, let's start the news. Dragon Age the Veilguard. Let's remind ourselves once again why this game is trash.
She's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties. I was so proud.
Oh,
Ah, shit. They're still holding it. Sorry.
what are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh, okay. A barv?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crew's not good for morale, but there's not always time for big, drawn-out apologies. So, when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a Barv. Oh, there we go.
I'm glad the Lords of Fortune have Tarsh's back.
Oh, Tarsh isn't the first non-binary member of the Lords.
Really?
It was a little before your time, but Horlicks was one of ours.
Alright, we're gonna stop it there since we already have seen this before. Obviously, it's extremely ridiculous to have being lectured about how to apologize if we misgender someone in a video game. The fact that they even use the word non-binary in a fantasy setting is ridiculous. It removes the player from being immersed in a different world in a video game and brings it back to the current world gender identity discussions. Let's go right ahead into the numbers in the Steam charts for this video game. A lot of people stopped playing this game after the first day. They didn't even buy the game. For a game with such resounding title like Dragon Age, it should have had 1 million players in the first day, such as other games were able to pull off in the fantasy setting, like Elden Ring or Black Myth Wukong. I will also mention Baldur's Gate 3, which at the moment has more players than this game. I would say all those three games have more players than this game right now. Baldur's Gate 3 has over 100,000 people playing the game right now. This is a new game. It was supposed to be skyrocketing, and it didn't, because people are sick of transgender propaganda. You know, we've reached a point where even the normal people who play video games who normally don't care about secret ideologies being placed in their video games, for example, Satanism. They don't usually care about that stuff, the occult symbolism, the all-seeing eye, the Illuminati stuff, but they do care about when it crosses the line into a territory which is unacceptable, such as this transgender stuff in the video games. Which is good. It means they still have a moral compass, and they're not completely destroyed by the satanic propaganda of this world, which transgender culture is a part of that. So I'm happy. I'm happy that the normal people are starting to see this, and maybe they're gonna ask even deeper questions about how the world works, and realize that it's actually a spiritual warfare going on, and that plays out in all the aspects of our life, including the entertainment that we consumed is sponsored by the satanic elite. At the peak, they got 60,000 players. It's a little bit more than on 8 November and 6 November, where it was only 48,000. It's still a very low number to what it should have been for a successful video game. There are also a lot of refunds. There are other channels on YouTube who cover this, and we're talking to shops everywhere and how no one's buying the game and how they're actually reducing the price to sell the game. The pre-orders started to come in very close to the game release, which means they've seen the gameplay footage and they've seen the transgender propaganda and how the characters talk and how annoying the game is. So they wanted to get their money back, which is good. There is, however, gamer journalist media that is completely bought by the machine of propaganda, such as Kotaku and IGN, which gave them very good reviews, and they called the release a great success. Unmitigated success. Fans are demanding their money back in huge numbers. The game has had at least 30,000 refunds in the past few days, which is not good for your game that has barely sold 500,000 copies to be hemorrhaging players like this. So generally speaking, Veilguard is not a commercial success. It's a big failure. Veilguard is not resonating with long-time fans. Most large outlets gave the game highly favorable ratings, referring to it as a return to form for the series. They really like to use this expression, return to form. IGN rated it 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. While Eurogamer gave it a 5 out of 5. However, the audience review scores on Google tell a far different tale. As of this writing, Google lists the game at 2.3 out of 5 with more than 4,500 reviews. And that's of course the reality. What people say the product is, and not the paid journalists. It's the same with anything, not just video games. It's the same if we're talking about war. It's the same if we're talking about vaccines, COVID vaccines, any topic. Just pick a topic. Not to mention how silly the game looks now. Just looks gay. The way some of these characters talk, a bunch of Starbucks employees, Reddit moderators, or safe space seeking 14-year-olds. People want it to be an adventure about, you know, heroes in the Dragon Age universe with dragons. So if you go on YouTube, sometimes you'll find these videos made by the fans which show how the game used to look like compared to how it looks like now. And how it used to look like is more serious, a bit more serious tone, more dramatic. The colors were darker. It was something that would contrast heavily what they are creating now, which is something with more like pink tones and friendly looking characters. Even the enemies look friendly. So the characters in the game look like a bunch of the people who would go to the LGBTQ parade. Check this out. Check this article by Screen Rant. You can tell they were funded to say a bunch of fake news, really. So this was published 12 hours ago. The folks at BioWare are likely letting out a collective sigh of relief now that Dragon Age The Veilguard has become its first critical success since 2014. Reviews are glowing, touting it as a refreshing adventure, and fans are heaping praise upon it too. I didn't see any praise. The user review score is very low. Look at this, metacritic.com. Generally unfavorable. 3.9 out of 10. There you go. While the official journalist gave it a 10 out of 10, and they used the same expression, return to form, return to form, return to form, return to form, and return to form. Very good. And you will see even in this article, it's a return to form for the developer. Amazing, isn't it? It's going pretty well for BioWare, the Veilguard, which always is a great sign. Hopefully means that the long-anticipated Mass Effect 5 will finally come to fruition after fans have waited for too long for it. Well, if the same developers are in charge of Mass Effect, I'm not sure what will gonna happen. Probably it's gonna bankrupt the company forever if they don't wake up from it, which I don't think they will, because they live in this illusion where the game release was a great success, and everyone who says otherwise, they will be criticized. So criticizing the fan base, that's another thing you will see with these woke games. Veilguard has proven to be a critical success for BioWare. Fans and critics alike have hailed it as a return to form for the developer after it suffered low review scores for its last two major releases. What? It has a low review score right now. I don't want to read any more of this, but you can. Yeah, you can go to the same article and read it for yourself. The game company is already moving away from Dragon Age The Veilguard. That doesn't seem like, because they say which is great news, but that doesn't seem like great news. If a game is a success, you want to further create an expansion or a DLC or something, but no, they just threw it in the trash and went to work on another title. Life Raft. Apparently it's a life raft for the company. The writing is pretty spectacular. No, it's not. It puts people off. The writing is immature and stupid. And they even use voice acting AI in parts of the game, which further reduces the value of the production, because it just becomes stale. Anyway, stupid propaganda articles turn to form. This is the reality. The users think it's shit. Speaking of shit, other companies are suffering of the same problem. So the development teams are all diverse, equity, and inclusion. All of their employees are hired now because diversity, equity, and inclusion. So they don't hire based on skill anymore. They hire a bunch of transgenders to make the game. And then if they happen to work at a company which used to make badass games, you will see that in the new titles the game looks gay and stupid. So, or they will create a new stupid title, such as in the case of Creative Assembly, which last year, they were trying to create this new live service game that would offer competition to Overwatch, Apex Legends, Warframe, Destiny, the live service games where you can go on multiplayer and buy loot crates. But they wanted to get into this with the game that looks like the characters from it look like a bunch of drag queens. And this is the company that made Total War games. It's the company that made Total War Rome. It's the company that made Medieval 2, a game that has a lot of war and a lot of traditional religious factions being depicted, like Christians and Muslims. It's the company that made Shogun 2, warfare in in Japan with samurais. It's the company that made Napoleon Total War. Now these are serious topics for a historian, for a military historian, or someone enthusiastic about history. So how does this stupid game like Hyenas fit to be made by such company? Well, because of the new hires that will come up with really stupid ideas. Not to mention they haven't made a historical game in a long time. They recently made Total War Pharaoh, but that's not like real history. It's like they made Troy, which is also myths, and you can put a bunch of females in that. So I guess the developers don't like to do masculine games anymore. They stick to Warhammer fantasy setting, and they don't like to make medieval games anymore where a bunch of badass dudes with heavy religious beliefs fight each other. They want to make drag queen show video game online, and it didn't work. So this company is owned by a bigger company, which is Sega, a bunch of Japanese guys in business suits. And if you don't supply money to those guys, they will shut you down. And this game costed, this game that they were working on. I'll show you. Who wants to play with characters that look like this, honestly? No one cares. No one cares. You don't even know, is this black person a chick or a man? It's a dilemma here. Well, what's this? What's this? These are the characters? I mean, unless this is made for some 14-year-old girls, I don't understand why the characters look like this. No one wants to play this. Like, imagine those Japanese guys looking at this and then being like, okay, we're gonna shut this down. We don't want to destroy our reputation. And we don't want you wasting more money on the production. Let's go back to making Total War games. That's probably how it went. Right. Well, no one wanted to play this, so it got cancelled. Because whether you like it or not, the public who consumes video games and buy games are actually guys. So we like to shoot stuff on screen more than the girls. It's just how it is. So if you're gonna try and sell us this garbage, no one's gonna buy it. The Japanese have more brains than the people who ended up working at Creative Assembly. So they were like, okay, we're gonna shut this down. See you later. And then they said konnichiwa and left. Cancelled before it even had the chance to launch. No one wanted this. But people want a new Total War game that's based in medieval time or in Roman time. This didn't make any sense last year. I hope they fix whatever they have there at the Creative Assembly, but I don't have much hopes because that's what most of the companies are becoming like that. You know, Ubisoft The same way they make a new Assassin's Creed with a black guy in Japan as a samurai. It's always diversity stuff. And then people wonder why most Americans, including young people, vote for Donald Trump. Because people are tired of transgender propaganda. And Donald Trump openly said he's against that, and he's against the teaching of transgender stuff in schools. Another one of these fail live service games is Redfall, which is made by Arcane Studios. And Arcane Studios is famous for developing single-player creative games such as Prey, which I have exposed for having some occult symbolism to it, which it does. I mean, even the arcane symbol is just it's a pentagram, basically, a goat head. But man, I still thought that Prey was a creative single-player game, and their bosses are telling them to stop making single-player interesting games and to make live service games like Redfall. So everyone seems to stop making cool games, instead making really dumb games that no one wants to play. It's unfortunate. Same with Deus Ex. It was stopped in development because of Embracer. It's owned by a big conglomerate company that owns multiple development companies, and they had problems with money. They had a ton of debt, talking 1.5 billions of dollars. And so they removed workers from companies and canceled projects that, that they thought that they wouldn't be making money. For example, Deus Ex. Now, Deus Ex didn't make less money because it's a bad game. It's actually a good game. It's a single player good game. It's sure it may also have its own transhumanist propaganda going on, but I'd rather have a game like that looks like this than a game like Veilguard, which is super gay. Eidos Montreal, which makes Deus Ex, switched from making serious games, where even conspiracies are mentioned, like the Illuminati, and they went towards a more happy game with the creation of Guardians of the Galaxy, a single-player Guardians of the Galaxy game, which is super happy, and at least it has metal. It has like the 80s glam metal vibe and music similar to how you would see in shows like Transformers in the 80s. But I will remind you that Deus Ex was an important game because in 2000, in the first game, it really exposed a lot of conspiracies. It exposed about how viruses are created, how vaccines are created, the corruptions behind the creation of those vaccines, the fact that they can make a virus anytime they want by just changing the numbers in the creation process. It talked about the Federal Reserve Bank. It talked about terrorism and how it's also artificially created. It talked about the Illuminati. It talked about other secret societies, the AI. It talked about surveillance programs, brainwashed combined with surveillance programs, kind of how Metal Gear Solid did at about the same time. We had some interesting games, and now they're stopped from existing and they replace it with a bunch of gay games that have nothing to say. Because that's what we're supposed to be in their eyes. We're just supposed to be some consumers. Now, just consume and don't think. And then go to war and die for NATO. This article, they explain the financial situation of the Embracer Group and how they made a new credit deal which will keep them afloat for a while. That's the thing that has changed in gaming too. It's no longer just studios with passion, it's big business. And involved in big business, there's also elites who have certain ideas and agendas to promote within the games. And so this is their new game.
We're a team. We'll win this together. Smash him up, Drax! We're a team. We'll win this together.
How much personality does that lack? if you put this side by side with something from the game Deus Ex from like 20 years ago, 25 years ago.
Terror built into the system.
Need I remind you that in the case of a national emergency, FEMA has a list of 6 million Americans who will be transported to detention centers? Your tabloids call it RX-84.
Yeah, including the President, Congress, and the Supreme Court.
In my position, I find it very easy to add names to that list.
The whole project of world government, going back to the League of Nations, has been funded and manipulated mainly by wealthy bankers. Remember that the UN itself was built on land donated by John D. Rockefeller.
FEMA takes over the highways, police, airports, media, the armed forces.
But they still report to the president, right?
Not until the end of the emergency. That's for efficiency. Also, they have plans on the books to arrest 5 million Americans the day the emergency is declared.
Terrorists?
Immigrants mostly. But also anyone the FBI has been watching.
I have seen it since I was a girl, the plotting and scheming of corporations to make Europe into one big country with no separate languages, cultures, or tastes.
It's more than Europe they plan to unify. Some people just don't understand the dangers of indiscriminate surveillance.
We'll win this together. A team. We'll win.
This lacks a lot of personality. We're a team. We'll do this together.
This together.
The music is good. Good job. But it has like a lame taste compared to Deus Ex.
G'day! I'm your instructor for today, Matt O'Kine. So glad you could join us. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy game is out now, and it's absolutely critical that we get ourselves into prime fighting condition. So come on, let's get fit for the galaxy.
You'd be a fool to take.
It looks gay. It looks very gay. I like synthwave and nostalgia of the 80s with the aerobic stuff, but this looks gay. I'm willing to bet how much you want that this guy is gay.
On the galaxy when you're hangry. So if you're looking to settle in for a big session, my top recommendation is chocolate donut with hundreds and thousands.
They even wear the gay flag, so put something like Deus Ex, which was talking about the Illuminati and all kinds of conspiracy, and bring on the table something like this gay Guardians of the Galaxy version. Yeah, it doesn't feel right. The music is good though, I'll give you that. Yeah. They're using this music now, but soon they're probably not gonna use it. if some kind of transgender consultant, like we've seen for Dragon Age Veilguard, tells them that this music is transphobic because it was mostly composed by white men. It's it promotes toxic masculinity. A lot of those guys looked in shape. All right, next I'm gonna relax the vibe a little bit before we go into the Donald Trump stuff. Before we go back into war, I'm going to show you here an interesting game that is now available for open beta, which means people can test it for free. And this is for now a multiplayer experience, which is kind of like Warno, a game that I have showed you on my channel. I know you guys don't care about good games and you just want me to expose games, but I am a gamer at the end of the day, and I will show you the stuff that I think is worth your time and worth playing. So look at this one. I don't know about you, but this is what I want to play. This is what I want to play. It's a great strategy game with a lot of customization options in it. You can make the brigade exactly how you want. You can put all kinds of weaponry on the tank, on the helicopter. You can put what type of missiles you want, whether you want air-to-ground missiles or air-to-air missiles. It's just gonna be great fun. A real strategy game that doesn't hold your hand. It has quite of a learning curve, and I'll probably make a few videos about it. It's gonna be good times. You can play as Americans, you can play as Russians. We've seen in the video various the video even started with a Mi-24 Russian helicopter. So if you like modern warfare and if you like strategy games, there's no reason why not to try this particular game. All these buildings, they are destructible. They can crush down. I'm not going to talk about it in detail in here, but I just think this is a fun game and doesn't have any propaganda. The multiplayer open beta for this is out now. Another game that's out soon, only 9 days, is Stalker 2 Heart of Chernobyl. And they have released some new trailers, some new videos on their GSC Game World channel.
Yeah.
This is a good shooter game. You also have to manage their inventory. You have to also survive. If you don't take care of your needs such as sleeping or eating, your efficiency in the game will definitely drop. I don't think they completely kill you if you are starved, but that's where mods will come in and modify the experience to make it a more hardcore survival experience. But the game itself is not a hardcore survival. It's an action first-person shooter with survival elements, a loot system, and inventory management. You can upgrade your guns. There will be a lot of different guns you can use. Who doesn't want to play in the mysterious zone of Chernobyl? The Chernobyl exclusion zone, not only the power plants explode, but they also did some paranormal experiments there with psi energy. So the explosion actually gives birth to a lot of mutants. And the last game was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So it's good to see it in modern graphics and with the technology that is available today. Look at this modding system. It looks really great up to today's standards. Inventory management looks similar to the old one, which is good. Character looks normal. It doesn't look like a bunch of gay propaganda like in other video games these days. It's largely due to the fact that it's a game built in Eastern Europe. That was a mutated dog over there. And so it's a serious shooter game, you know, that everyone can get immersed to without worrying about some gay propaganda. Now, what they might still have is a little bit of war propaganda, but not like both Broken Arrow and like any shooter game really kind of promotes the military-industrial complex because you're playing with weapons and of mass destruction. Well, you're playing with weapons that are used to kill life in real life, but then it might incentivize someone to get enlisted in the army or something. But I don't see it. I don't see it like that. I think that pixels are pixels. I would never want to kill someone in real life, and these bastards can't convince me to do so. I think most of the people think like that. I also didn't like that GSC Game World has a very pro-Ukraine stand. Well, they are from Ukraine, of course. It's normal for them to do that. However, it's not normal to modify the game lore and remove Russian characters from the game and remove the Russian language and not sell the game to the Russian fans, because you could have some potential friends there, because the gaming audience is not an audience that wants war. If someone is interested in your art, he will actually be more inclined to be even against Vladimir Putin, because Vladimir Putin is attacking something that these people like, which is a studio from Ukraine that's been kind of jeopardized in a way from doing the game because of this special military operation. I'm the kind that blames both parties, and I'm talking about NATO, not NATO and Russia are both to blame. NATO for provoking and Russians from biting in, and this led to tremendous loss of life on both parts, with around 500,000 men that each lost, or more. The defending side will always lose less men than the attacking side. I believe maybe Russians are even hiding some of their own losses, so they might have lost something about 700,000 men by now. But also Ukraine is hiding how many they are losing. I think that when you get encircled, like I've seen in some of these tactics that the Russians use, when you get pounded with artillery, when you're in cover all the time, the Russians use artillery shells a lot. Iskander M, look it up, look up what Iskander M can do. The missile launching system. You know, it's not a joke, so I think it's best to negotiate the ending of that story with compromises, because you can't reach a resolution without compromise. If you're unwilling to compromise, then you have to go all in, and all in means to fight the war to the end, and that means that more life will be lost. So I just wish that Stalker devs would have a more in-depth analysis of what's actually going on, and not just say, hey, Russia bad, Ukraine good, support Ukraine, you know. And also not selling the game to their fans, removing Russian characters, because the zone is supposed to have Russian characters and Russian military during the time when this event takes place and after that event takes place. Here's a new little trailer. I suppose it just means that the game is online. It's going to be released as being promised on the current release date. I'm looking forward to it. I'm probably gonna make videos of it. I hope it doesn't disappoint. For me, that stuff with the Russian characters not existing in the game, it's not like a deal breaker, because I don't know Russian anyway, and when Ukrainians speak to me it sounds like Russian anyway, so I'm sorry if that offends you if you are from Ukraine, but to me, I didn't even know. Like initially I thought that Stalker was a Russian game, so sorry for my ignorance, but to me it was more about like a Russian vibe somehow. You know, slap squatting memes and checky brecky and hard bass, that sort of deal. But of course it was a deeper experience, and it was serious too, because the game doesn't hold your hand, and you are in the dangerous zone trying to survive, surrounded by different factions with different interests, some more dangerous than others, and of course the mutants. Alright, so now let's get the gaming stuff out of the way. Apparently Canada orders shutdown of TikTok local business, but the app itself is not banned. Canadians will still have access to the short video app owned by China's ByteDance, and can continue to create content. Canada on Wednesday ordered Chinese-owned TikTok business in the country to be dissolved, citing national security risks, but added the government was not blocking Canadians' access to the short video app or their ability to create content. The government is taking action to address the specific national security risks related to ByteDance Ltd's operations in Canada through the establishment of TikTok's Technology Canada Incorporated. Innovation Minister François-Philippe Champagne said in a statement. Ottawa last year began reviewing TikTok's plans to invest and expand its business in Canada. ByteDance is TikTok's Chinese parent company. Under Canadian law, the government can assess potential risks to national security from foreign investments, such as the TikTok's proposal. The law prevents the government from revealing the details of such investments. The decision was based on the information and evidence collected over the course of the review and on the advice of Canada's security and intelligence community and other government partners. TikTok said it will challenge the order in court. Shutting down TikTok's Canadian offices and destroying hundreds of well-paying local jobs is not in anyone's best interest, and today's shutdown order will do just that. Canada has banned the TikTok app from government-issued devices, saying it presents an unacceptable level of risks to privacy and security. TikTok and ByteDance sued in U.S. federal court in May, seeking to block a law signed by U.S. President Joe Biden. The law signed by Biden on April 24 gives ByteDance until January 19 to sell TikTok or face a ban. Hey, that's actually one of the good things that Biden did then. Didn't expect that one. The White House has said it wants to see Chinese-based ownership ended on national security grounds, but not a ban on TikTok. Obviously, TikTok contributes to the rotting of the brain of the people. At least they're not cool with having TikTok offices on their ground or people who work in government to use these kind of services. And we should be also aware, as people from all over, to not use programs that have spying on them. And this brings us to how Russia, for example, banned Discord from its country. Although I've received a message from a Russian saying that now he can access it, so probably it's back online now. But on 9 October, Russia's telecoms watchdog on Tuesday announced that it was banning the social media platform Discord for violating the country's laws, signaling the latest move by authorities to tighten control over the internet. Access to Discord was being restricted due to the violation of requirements of Russian legislation pertaining to preventing the use of messaging for terrorist or extremist purposes. Russia has been ordering foreign platforms to remove content deemed illegal for several years, imposing fines for failure to comply with its injunctions. US-based Discord was fined 6 million rubles, equal to $62,000 by a Moscow court in July 2023 for failing to remove illegal content, a decision which Roskomnadzor said the company ignored. Although Discord is popular among young people, it is used far less than Telegram by the general public in Russia. Discord failed to comply with an October order to remove nearly 1,000 items of content, claiming the site is actively used by criminals. Since the launch of its offensive in Ukraine, the Kremlin has tightened its grip on the digital sector, including bans on a number of Western websites and social networks. So the West bans Chinese apps and Russians ban Western apps. But probably some oligarchs from Russia have kids that play video games and are in Discord rooms and recently have complained to their dads, and apparently now Discord can be used again, according to a friend of mine from Russia who messaged me like yesterday. Of course, you can still access this with a VPN. You just install a virtual private network, switch the country to a different IP, and then you can use any app. There was a football match a few days ago between Israel and Netherlands. Well, Tel Aviv versus Ajax, which is the best team in Holland, in Netherlands. Tel Aviv is the capital of Israel, so it's the main team of Israel. Maccabi Tel Aviv soccer fans were violently chased and attacked after attending the match in Amsterdam Thursday night against Ajax. In videos on social networks Maccabi Tel Aviv fans are seen being attacked in several locations in the city. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered planes sent to evacuate Israelis in the Netherlands. And they attacked fans. It looks like it was planned. Ajax won the match with 5-0. Several dozen people dressed in black attacked Maccabi Tel Aviv fans, and several people were arrested. About 30 attackers have been arrested so far, according to the Foreign Ministry, citing information provided by local police. A 30-year-old Maccabi Tel Aviv fan described the moments of horror. I finished a 4-month reserve in Gaza, and what I experience here is no less scary. There is a war out there. They ran over me and pulled a knife on me. I am slightly injured, but I am not ready to receive treatment here, only in Israel. We were ambushed. I'm in the market. I saw with my own eyes children who were caught in explosions. They are everywhere. No police, complete chaos. Everything was pre-planned. The police here abandoned us. Every fourth person walking the street is a Muslim who has come to attack Jews. Me and several hundred other fans are surrounded in the hotel. The police don't allow us to leave. They just want to fly home. Well, the Westerners invited the Muslims into their countries, and now there's stabbings. They're stabbing the Jew, because the Muslims hate the Jew. Oh, they didn't think about this one. And so Israel is out there, creating war crimes. The Muslims don't like them at all. But at the same time, Hamas is crazy. And you can't call the Palestinian government a real government. It's a terrorist government. And a lot of those countries in the Muslim lands are run by terrorists. And that's just how it is. I'm not a hippie, it's like, I have protect Palestine. But I'm also not gonna like how Israel is handling the situation by attacking women and children, destroying hospitals, or all kinds of stuff like that. At the same time, I do also know that those countries sometimes have a complete disregard to where the women and children are. There's messy stuff on both sides, so you can't be fully on one side. It's almost the same as with the situation between Ukraine and Russia. But at the same time, we do know that, the Zionist Jews have a lot of control on what's going on in the world, on the narrative. They own a lot of media, they own a lot of politicians. And when it comes to America, they have good relations with both parties. They have, Biden was sold to them, offered support to Israel, and Donald Trump is gonna do the same thing. It doesn't mean that Donald Trump is fully under control, because he's doing some mad stuff. He's doing some mad stuff that other people didn't have the courage to do so before. Openly talking about the deep state, openly wanting to have peace in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. He's talking against military-industrial complex proposals to just give unlimited stuff to Ukraine. He wants to stop giving stuff to Ukraine. That's a big deal. He wants instead to negotiate for peace. He wants to remove the transgender stuff from school. He wants to stop the flooding of illegals to America. Those are all anti-establishment, anti-globalization things. But is he sold a little bit to the Jews? Yeah, I think so, but we'll have to see. I have to see what happens. We just had a piece of news here that said there was a phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin already. Now, Donald Trump is not yet in power. It's impressive how he won, though. He won the popular vote, the Electoral College vote, the Senate. So he has full power in America once he gets into office. But he's already trying to make phone calls because there is time to January, and hopefully these leftists don't start some kind of full-on war, because at that point it would be impossible to pull out or extremely hard to do so. Trump talks Ukraine in several calls with Putin. US President-elect Trump has held phone calls with leaders in Europe as questions persist over Washington's commitment to Ukraine's defense under the new presidential administration. US President-elect Donald Trump has spoken with Russian President Vladimir Putin about ending the war in Ukraine in a phone call reported by the Washington Post on Sunday. The newspaper, citing several people familiar with the call who spoke on the basis of anonymity, reported that Trump had reminded Putin of the sizable US military presence in Europe. So in that case, Trump is not going as a, he still wants to show that he has more balls. So it's like, yeah, we got all these bases around you. You better think about this, Mr. Vladimir. So it's a balls measuring contest. It's like a power measuring contest. I don't know if this is the best approach, but when you go to talk with Vladimir Putin, you definitely have to show that you are a man and that you have power. However, I think a better approach should have been, hey, listen, I know that the last administration helped with provoking you into this invasion. So we're willing to get on the table right now and mediate a discussion between you and Zelinski to try and have peace. But both of you have to come to the table with an open mind and be willing to compromise. The Post also reported that Trump was keen to have further conversation to talk about the resolution of the war soon. Trump has criticized the scale of military and financial support for Kiev under US President Joe Biden's administration, while the soon-to-be president has vowed to end the war quickly, without specifying how. That is true. He always appeared in his rallies talking about how the war never would have happened, first of all, and how he will end the war quickly, but he never explained a real plan on how to do that. Now, depending who he will get on his team, they might have a good plan or a bad plan. It remains to be seen. Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Zelinski on Wednesday, shortly after his election victory was confirmed. Ukraine's foreign ministry said it was not informed in advance on the call between Trump and Putin. We do not comment on private calls between President Trump or other world leaders. The call was reported to have taken place from Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate on Thursday. The Kremlin denies the call took place. Dmitry Peskov, Kremlin spokesperson, said, "This is completely untrue. This is pure fiction. It's just false information. There was no conversation. No concrete plans for speaking with Trump." In previous comments on Sunday, Peskov had said Trump's return to the Oval Office sent positive signals. At least he's talking about peace and not about confrontation. This call was reported by anonymous people within their circle. I believe it can be true, but of course officially they will say it didn't happen. That's just the way it's gonna be. Biden administration, which will remain in charge until Trump's inauguration on January 20, has said it will send Ukraine as much aid as possible before Biden leaves office. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They still have many days until January 20, and they can do anything in this time. Biden's national security advisor said to the White House he aims to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position on the battlefield so that it is ultimately in the strongest possible position at the negotiating table. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz loves to give support to Ukraine, and he says about how Donald Trump needs to dance with Europe and not go crazy with his own ideas. My principle is always, if I may say so casually, you dance with those who are in the room, and that also applies to the future president of the United States. Yes, well, I also know that US has more leverage in the NATO organization, and Scholz pointed out that they spend 2% of its national gross product on defense, which I assume is not so much to what the Americans are invested in, have invested in Ukraine thus far. I think there is no doubt that the US has given the most to Ukraine. So if it wants, it can also pull out, and it can also start to mediate peace discussions. From a different article, saying the same, Kremlin denies Putin spoke with Trump. But now let's have a look at the situation on the ground on the live UAmap.com, where we can see the front line every day with the updates. So for example, if I click on this bomb that was reported 6 hours ago, Russian aviation conducted airstrikes at the following cities. It's a lot of cities, so I won't name them. But they do have shells. They have infinite shells, despite the West saying in their propaganda materials that the Russians have nothing, or that they're close to having nothing. How can they have nothing if they are able to bomb every day? There are big fights every day. A lot of ammunition is being spent, a lot of shells, and the lines on the map are being modified. So the main area of attack right now is towards Pokrovsk. Some of the people might still be living on that hype that this Kursk, this advance of the Ukrainians in the Kursk region, is like the big deal. But it's not such a big deal, because if we go, let's say we go back in time, we go to September, and we see how much they had. So look at this territory, and then we go to November 11, and boom, it's small. So the Russians took back their territory, and now this place doesn't carry that much leverage, and it's extremely hard to keep this area. They are under complete pressure by the Russians, and so they will retreat soon. But Zelinski has said something like, oh, we're gonna retreat from that area as a sign of goodwill. So not because you are getting pounded by the Russians, but because it's a sign of goodwill. No, that's not realistic. They are losing this ground. Of course, they haven't lost much territory. In fact, they haven't lost any territory this last week. We see here the map is the same. So it is stabilized, but they are under continuous pressure, and they will have to retreat soon. So as you can see, this region is bombed a lot by the Russians. It's bombed every day. These are some bombs that were yesterday, for example, and then the day before that, and then the day before that. It's always bombs. If you click on any of these things, it will tell you exactly what the update is. In this case, first Shayad type strike drones have entered airspace over Ukraine. So in recent times, the Ukrainians lost a lot of their gains in Kursk, and the Russians have had a big bulge in the direction of Pokrovsk. So I will demonstrate this to you very easily. This is the map right now, and let's go to October, and let's go to September, let's go to July, let's go to May. So in spring, the situation looked like this, right? And now the situation looks like this. Boom. So the Russians are getting close to reaching their objectives at Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, and they're about to set a foothold in Mirnograd. And they also have a kind of a cauldron here in this region. It's all encircled and will be gone soon. And of course, this is the Toretsk city, which, if we go back in time, was about to reach this urban area. Ukrainian New York right here, New York. And so this was in June. And now if we go to November, 11 November, look at this. Pierced through the urban area, and they got New York. They got everything around this area. It's complete Russian victory. The Russians also were able to reach this river. So as we can see, in June, they were approaching this river. And now they have reached it. There's also, see, the Russians are not winning everywhere. In Vovchansk, for example, there are heavy clashes here. And for example, now the situation is like this, but like last month, the Russians were here. Then before that, they were all the way back here. And before that, they were in again. And so it's a lot of back and forth that this region always keeps changing. And now the situation is like this. So that's the situation on the map. You can see this live. I'll put the link in the description if you want to take a look yourself every day. They are the Western media, a voice talking about the Russian progress, but there is Russian progress, and that represents leverage for them at the negotiating table if such a negotiation is about to take place. And I believe it will. I believe that's the difference between Trump and Biden, or Trump and Kamala Harris. Those guys are not willing to negotiate. They just keep sending weapons to Ukraine and don't want to negotiate anything. But Trump actually wants to negotiate and get some kind of peace going on. We'll see what happens. It is one glimmer of hope in the dark. Trump Jr., for example, said this to Zelinski in public. You have 38 days left and you will lose your allowance. The eldest son of the president-elect the United States has warned the president of Ukraine that the countdown has begun until he loses his secret. Well, this is a Romanian page translated to English, so it may not make sense like this, but loses his lucky charm, something like that. Donald Trump Jr. published on his Instagram account a meme in which Zelinski with a depressed figure stands with Trump Sr. Over Zelinski it rains with dollars, which they stop abruptly. Images are accompanied by the text you have 38 days left until you lose your allowance. So there you go. Parts of Donald Trump's family are very open about this and do jokes on the internet, telling Zelinski he'll lose his allowance. And this is significant because it shows us on what page they are. And this is what people with common sense want. They want to stop this brainwash in the West of supporting Ukraine all the time and just make a negotiation and let's have peace. Also very interesting. The COVID pandemic was a NATO military operation. So You know, NATO does shady things. They always take over lands that they shouldn't be in for weapons of mass destructions that don't exist, and provoking this whole thing with Russia now. So now the Dutch health minister is opening a page to a conspiracy where the COVID pandemic was a NATO military operation. NATO together with the NCTV, which is not a TV. It's an agency responsible for the national security of the Netherlands. So the health minister Ajema acknowledged that the pandemic policies of the Netherlands are taking place under NCTV and the Ministry of Defense. He stressed that the Dutch government had responded to pandemic according to NATO obligations. It was a military operation. After becoming a minister, she was informed about resilience and obligations to NATO. From that information meeting here, I worked with colleagues from the ministry to see what we need to fulfill those obligations to NATO. We do everything under the direction of NCTV. There are several ministries participating in this. I've asked if there was an overlap between pandemic preparedness and resilience, and I was told it was. We want to have the same tools that we would have had in the corona crisis. During the pandemic, NATO set out instructions on response measures to COVID and coordinated Stratcom, strategic communications. The instructions were circulated through the foreign ministries of NATO member states. This explains why Sweden, which did not become a NATO member except in this year, it was the only country in Europe that applied a more relaxed policy in the pandemic time. For 4 years it was not allowed to say this thing. It was a conspiracy theory to say it. Statements Minister Ajema comes in support of some statements made by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's now the head of health after Trump won. So you see how this can give hope to people that Trump is against, the Trump administration is against the establishment, because they have people who have criticized the COVID measures, who are against the transgender operations for minors, who are against NATO escalating into World War III. Kennedy claims that DoD was in full control and paid the pharmaceutical companies for the brand name, so that the population would think they were received a product Pfizer or Moderna. Dutch minister openly stated that both COVID and pandemic preparation, which are taking place now, are military operations that have nothing to do with public health in the traditional sense. COVID policy is the creation of the security agency, NCTV, and NATO, said Ajema. It was like a military dictatorship experimenting with people's psychology and health. And this is not good, and it needs to be exposed. Now, I'm glad that Donald Trump won the elections in the United States, and I read a statement from this random Korean guy from America, who's also a Christian. And here's what he says and why he voted for Trump. Today, as a Korean American Christian, I voted for Donald J. Trump. I voted against killing babies in the womb for all 9 months of pregnancy for whatever reason, sexualization of children, gender confusion, sexual deviancy and perversion, men in women's locker rooms and bathrooms, endless meaningless foreign wars, massive government spending for foreign countries but giving Americans pennies, open borders and illegal immigration to curb crime, trafficking and drugs, censorship and compelled speech, denigration of traditional masculinity and femininity, media lies, manipulation and deception, evil being good and good being evil, hatred for the Christian principles and ethics that define this nation. I think this defines the Biden administration very well. Now here's what the Trump administration is promoting. He says, I voted for protecting babies from the evil of abortion, protection of parental rights, protecting women's spaces from predatory men and allowing men to be men. Free speech, Christian liberty in regards to family, sexuality, and marriage, cutting the federal bureaucracy, peace on the Korean Peninsula and around the world, ending discrimination against Korean and Asian Americans in higher education and workplaces, self-protection and the Second Amendment, booming economy, safer cities, and reducing crime, border security, law and order over chaos, food and medicine reform, making Americans healthier, fairer justice system. Jesus is never on the ballot. The reality is we are always, to a certain degree, choosing between the lesser of two evils, because no one has been perfect except for Jesus. The two candidates both have major character flaws, both today and in the past. Personality will fade. Policy will last even after the 4-year presidential team term is over. My vote isn't a full-fledged endorsement of everything a candidate has ever said, nor anything on their agenda. The question is, which candidate enables and promotes evil more? Which candidate will best keep evil at bay? Voting Republican is not a sufficient bulwark against the onslaught of moral insanity. The Republican Party today is not as morally insane as the Democrat Party. It's not exactly sane either. So I know Republican victories are only a way of buying us time, not fixing the problem entirely. I voted for Trump because I believe his presidency would best promote good and restrain evil to help advance the cause of Christ and love our neighbor. God bless America. Make America great again. There you go. Korean American knows what's up. But now let's look at some of the things that Donald Trump has said himself and has promised to the American people.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption, and there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies. Doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
So this sounds very good, right? I mean, this is straight out of what a conspiracy theorist would want to see happen. Of course, conspiracy people are people who expose conspiracies because they love their country. I think what Donald Trump says here is great. Now it remains to be seen how much he is actually able to do from this. You know, moving those infrastructures of intelligence into different places would be quite a feat to accomplish. To change the mentality from Washington to some people to other areas where there are more patriots. I think it sounds good. Let's see what he is able to accomplish. The second video, he talks against transgenders in school, which I think makes complete sense, and it's indirect. It's exactly what people want, to get the insanity out of the schools. And this is the guy that talks against it. So it's really, really interesting. If it was some kind of fake guy, you know, the Republicans would be just as boring as they were 20 years ago. And no one would be interested. The reason why people wanted Trump is because he is different and he has the courage to talk against all these things, all these globalist agendas. Doesn't mean he can actually succeed, but he can try.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports, and we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parents' consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds good, right? It's exactly common sense. It's common sense, and he doesn't sound like a Nazi at all. It's Nazi. It's a Nazi thing to say. First of all, these people don't understand the definition of Nazi, but just let's be in their reality. In their reality, they only say he's a Nazi because they are brainwashed to think that the normal is to have those horrible things going on. So of course their universe is getting crushed before them. So they start crying, and they think the world is over, and they start to say that they're gonna move from the country, and they insult people who appreciate these values that are now. Donald Trump promised to not only take those ridiculous values out of the education system and out of medication system, but he also said that he will punish people from the past who have done some bad things, and also the fact that he's going to promote the good things, such as family and schools, and have men and female, only just the common sense stuff that everyone wants. I think this is a good thing for America and for the world as well. So let's look at some of these crazy people.
Okay, where did I park here? The hell? Is that someone screaming in their car? Oh boy, her post-election prescription request must have been denied. Alright, I gotta get away from this one. Alright, where is my car? Oh no, not another one. This one's barking now.
I'm fucking feral today. Feral!
Could you imagine how many cats are roaming around this one's apartment?
Like, I want to eat, like, maybe they voted for Kamala, but, like, I want to eat them right now.
Well, that's why you should be on a leash, ma'am.
Like, I want to take a bite out of those glutes.
Alright, where is my car? This parking lot's infected with lunatics today.
Why did I let myself have hope? I can't believe this country did this again. Why did I let myself have hope?
Come on, you got your whole life ahead of you. You still got armpit hair to grow, bull rings to buy. You haven't even shaved your head yet. You gotta embrace the moment like this one.
Here we go. Have I given up on America? Yeah. I've also given up on coloring this hair. I mean, all the things that the patriarchy wants us to be. Because clearly, they don't give a about us.
See, look how full of life she is.
Stop talking to men. Divorce your husbands. Leave your fucking boyfriends. Leave them.
So you don't see her crying. Come on, you're still gonna just sit here and wallow?
Just devastated.
You're only like 50 face piercings away from true happiness. Take it from this one.
Cause I'm fucking angry!
See, she's doing good.
I'm angry as fuck. I'm gonna get drunk and cause a problem.
Okay.
Joey B. Toons, everyone. This channel is... He's a good comedian, and he also has his head on his shoulders, you know? He has his head on his shoulders, and he makes fun of these lunatics.
Okay, there's my car, finally. Oh, this guy's filming next to me, great.
I'm done crying. My sadness is over.
Okay, your T levels are still low, but go on.
My anger has set in.
Okay, take another estrogen tablet, you'll get through this.
I am a very petty person.
That's good. A quality in a person the entire world despises. Go on.
And I am very proud of that. Love it about myself, actually.
Well, that's normal amongst men with inadequate members.
And so, I say this in the most disrespectful way possible. I don't care if you are my family. I don't care if you're my friend. I don't care if we've been friends our entire lives. You can literally go f*** yourself if you voted for Donald Trump. I hope you go jump off of a bridge.
That's a good hire at the university. This must have been the Zoom interview that got him the job. All right, I gotta get home before these lunatics crash into each other. Talk to you later.
If you see me, keep walking. Do not make eye contact. Do not square up at me. Don't act like you know me.
No one wants to talk to you. You're a furry. And there were even worse meltdowns, and you can find them all on YouTube. Just write leftist meltdowns. I think, you know, this is stuff like this is on another level. You don't see something like that in, like, where I come. It's like I come from Romania. We have elections here, and when the elections are done, someone wins, and that's it. You know, you move on. You don't go crazy on camera. You know, not speak to your family ever again because they voted something else, or you don't, or not speak with your best friends because they voted something else. This is ridiculous what's going on in America. I don't think everyone acted like this, but there are a lot of people who acted like this. You know, these type of videos, you've got entire compilations of them. So there's a problem. That means these people were brainwashed to the bone with how to live their lives and how to act towards other people who actually represent the common sense. Alright, so that's it about America. Here's something that's happening in Spain. And in Spain, people are really angry because of that flood which happened in their country, and how the authorities arrived late, and so they demand the resignation of the regional leader. There were violent protests yesterday. Some interesting clashes, that's for sure. Let's look a little bit. Alright, so here is something about killers, asesinado. So they think the government killed them, basically. So again, they're saying assassin, assassin. So they're saying they didn't die, they were assassinated. I can tell this, I can tell a little bit of Spanish because my language is Romanian and it's Latin based, so we have a lot of similar words. Yeah, those are some big doors. I don't know some rags and a stick might do. But look, they're putting it on fire. Maybe the door will catch fire. Of course, riot police are paid by the government to protect the government and not the people. They probably don't like their day. It's a bad day at the job. Probably in conflict, because some of them might believe what these people believe. They got fireworks too. We're having some difficulties at least. Yeah, I'm not promoting any violence, just in case the YouTube mods watch, but sometimes the government has it coming, and these people should refuse the paycheck that day and just go home. But I guess they're gonna be called for treason and lose their job. And sometimes the people need to organize better. They need to get shields, you know, talk with your community and create shields so that they can't hurt you with this stupid stick. Hey, this guy's full of blood. At least, oh, his glasses are fine. So there's that. Alright, if anyone is Spanish, maybe translate some of this. See, the problem is, it's deeper than this. It's deeper than government doing this or something. You know, this, I think it's actually a weather weapon used against the Spanish people. Could be coming from anywhere to send them a message. Maybe Spain did something anti-globalist somewhere, and now they're getting their punishment. Just the same way when Turkey was against Sweden and Finland joining NATO, and then they had a big earthquake in their country, and then suddenly Turkey changed their mind after that earthquake. So then they were approving of it. Weather weapons, guys. Check it out. Alright, so I guess that's all I have for today. Let me know if I miss any subjects. You can join my Discord and participate into the creation of the truth news. If you like this video, give it a like or subscribe, and there are support ways that can be found in the description, such as joining Patreon or donations on PayPal. This is all I have for today's truth news, and I try to get the best stories that happen during a week. That's the idea with this program. I will make good scripted and edited videos too. I think I'm gonna start playing the Veilguard and get myself tortured in that universe, just so I can find more stuff to show you guys. You know, well-edited games, exposed type videos, like I used to do in the past. It might not just be woke stuff, it might also be satanic occult symbolism. So thank you very much for watching. But I'm not just focused on this type of stuff. I also want to post videos with games that I do like and things that are part of my personality, such as my music compositions or some music compilations. And I know that the nucleus of the few subscribers that I have are just into the conspiracy and into me exposing stuff, which is fine. I respect them. If they don't want to watch the other videos, it's okay. Almost nobody is watching the other type of videos, well, except for the music compilations, which are, for example, Zone FM, a video I made with the music present in STALKER Anomaly mode, has a lot of views, hundreds of thousands. Do those people know me? They don't know me. They just watch the videos and then they leave. Do they know my channel? No, they don't. But, you know, I'm trying. Like, I'm trying to get the people into gaming, into the gaming audience, to also be aware of what's going on in the world and question things, start talking about it. I'm also trying to get the people in the conspiracy area to relax a little bit and, you know, enjoy a thing or two in life. That's also important. So some kind of balance. Anyways, I thank you for watching another edition of Truth News. This was Vlad, signing out.